The weight of my son in my arms was light, but the responsibility of being his father crushed my bones. Lucas slept, indifferent to the world, swaddled in the same lace veil Clara had worn decades before. His little face, rosy and serene, mirrored the peace I had lost 9 months ago when he was born in a delivery that nearly cost my wife her life. Never again, I vowed to Clara that night, as she trembled with pain and fear. We will never risk this again. But today, at his baptism, the danger did not come from a broken body, but from a sharp tongue. The church was full of familiar faces, uncles faking smiles, neighbors whispering about the cost of the feast, and Laura, always Laura. My sister-in-law leaned against a column, her scarlet red dress tearing at the solemnity of the place like an open wound. Her eyes, the same acidic green as Clara's, watched me from afar, calculating. Since I married her sister, Laura had turned every family gathering into a trial. My salary, my car, even the way I held Lucas. "You shouldn't hold a baby like that," she once corrected, wrenching him from my arms. Today, however, her criticism would be different. Deadly. The priest sprinkled Lucas with holy water. The baby waved his arms, and Clara laughed with that laugh that had once made me fall in love. Clear, warm, like silver bells. I took her hand, feeling the wedding ring I still wore after 3 years. We're doing this, I thought. But then I smelled wine on someone's breath behind me. What a moving performance, Laura applauded slowly, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Everyone turned to her. Even Lucas opened his eyes as if sensing the storm. "Doesn't anyone else want to congratulate the dad?" The word dripped with poison. Clara tensed. "Laura, please," she whispered. "Not today." "Not today?" My sister-in-law repeated, stepping closer until the scent of Merlot from her glass made me gag. "It's the perfect day. After all, what better place for a confession than a church?" The priest coughed, uncomfortable. "Madam, if you wish to speak—" "Oh, I will speak," she interrupted, climbing the altar steps as if it were a stage. Her dress snagged on a candelabrum, dripping hot wax near Lucas. Instinctively, I hugged him tighter. "All of you," she pointed at the congregation, "have seen what I've seen. That child," her trembling finger jabbed at my son, "bears no resemblance to him. But to my husband—" She paused dramatically, savoring every second. "Oh, to Pablo, yes." The name reverberated like a gunshot. Pablo, her husband, a quiet man with a stooped back, tried to disappear into the crowd. But Laura hauled him forward by his tie. "Look at him," she spat, grabbing Pablo's face to compare it to Lucas's. The same square jaw, the same broad forehead, even the damn shape of the ears. "Those are coincidences," Clara shouted, but her voice cracked. Laura pulled something from her purse, a worn baby photo of Pablo. She held it up for all to see. My heart stopped. There it was, the same moon-shaped birthmark on his thigh that Lucas bore. Coincidences? Laura hurled the photo at my feet. "He," pointing at me, "can't even have children, right, brother-in-law?" The air thickened. Clara looked at me, horrified. It was true. Years ago, after an accident, doctors had told me the odds were almost zero. A secret Clara and I had kept under lock and key. "How?" I stammered. "Do you think I didn't check before opening my mouth?" Laura laughed. "Your medical records aren't as private as you think." Clara brought her hands to her mouth. Lucas began to cry, but I could no longer comfort him. My arms trembled. My thoughts were a hurricane. "You—" I stepped toward Laura, blinded by rage. "You miserable— Stop!" Clara threw herself between us, her body shaking. "Enough, both of you." But Laura wasn't finished. With a quick motion, she ripped Lucas from my arms. The baby wailed, his tiny legs kicking the air. "Look at him," she shrieked, holding Lucas like a trophy. "He's Pablo's spitting image." Someone in the congregation, I didn't know who, sobbed. Others murmured, pulling out phones to record. Pablo, pale as a corpse's shroud, tried to reach for the baby, but Laura shoved him away. "You know what's the funniest part?" she whispered, leaning in close. "Clara always wanted a real child, someone who wasn't defective." Something inside me snapped. Before I could stop myself, my fist connected with her jaw. Laura fell backward, releasing Lucas. Clara caught him at the edge of the altar, screaming my name. "Violent," Laura rasped, blood streaming from her mouth. "Can't even protect your own child." Chaos erupted. Guests scattered, some toward Laura, others toward me. The priest tried to calm everyone, but his voice was lost in the cacophony. "DNA test," I roared, pointing at Laura with a shaking finger. "Right now." Clara nodded, weeping silently, as she held Lucas to her chest. "Yes," she said in a voice I barely recognized. "But if you lie, Laura." Her gaze could have pierced steel. "You will never see us again." My sister-in-law wiped the blood from her lip. Her smile was a specter. "When you see the results," she whispered, "you will be the one who disappears." As we left the church, Pablo's eyes followed me. It wasn't triumph nor guilt, it was pity. The laboratory was a stainless steel coffin. Fluorescent lights flickered overhead like harbingers of doom. Lucas slept in Clara's car outside, oblivious to the hell his own genes had unleashed. I couldn't look at him without seeing the photo. Laura had thrown like a Molotov cocktail, the damned birthmark that now seared my retinas. Laura entered last, dragging Pablo behind her like a shameful dog. Her cheek, swollen from my punch, was already a bruise, but her smile remained intact. Venomous. Clara hadn't spoken to me since the garage. She sat in a corner, hugging herself as if the world might collapse. "Sign here," the nurse said, sliding papers across the table. Her voice was cool and professional, as if she weren't about to destroy lives with a cotton swab. Pablo signed without reading. His hands trembled so badly that the pen left blue ink smears. "You too," I said to Marta, pointing at her son Julian, who was playing with a toy car on the floor. "Me?" Marta went pale. "This is too much." "Look," I insisted, crouching in front of the boy. I lifted his bangs to reveal a sickle-shaped scar on his eyebrow. "Pablo has the same one, remember? From that accident at university." Clara stifled a sob. Marta covered her mouth, but it was Pablo who crumbled. "I'm sorry," he murmured, crying onto the table. "I'm so sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." Laura slapped him. "Shut up, you idiot," she spat. "You owe them nothing." The nurse took samples in silence. My saliva, Lucas's, Pablo's, Julian's. Each swab felt like a lash. When it was Clara's turn, she stepped back. "Me too?" she asked, wounded. To confirm there was no baby swap, I lied, avoiding what everyone was thinking. "What if Lucas isn't even yours?" The process took hours. Laura smoked 3 cigarettes by the window, poisoning the air. Marta rocked Julian, humming a lullaby that sounded like a funeral dirge. I watched Clara, searching her eyes for the love I had sworn to see forever. But she stared at Pablo. Always at Pablo. "How much did you know?" I asked, breaking the silence. She didn't answer. Instead, Laura approached, her heels scraping, like a predator. "Did you ever wonder why Clara started talking to me again after all those years?" she whispered, toying with my tie. "It was the day you were diagnosed infertile. She came to cry to me to say her marriage was a sham and that she wanted a real baby." Clara leaped to her feet. "That's a lie," she cried, but her voice lacked strength. "A lie?" Laura pulled out her phone and displayed a message from Clara a year ago. "I can't go on like this. I need a baby, even if it's not his." The world blurred. I remembered nights Clara came home late from work, the scent of Pablo's cologne I once thought I recognized in her hair. "Him?" I roared, pointing at Pablo. "With him?" "No." Clara tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. "We only talked, I swear." Laura laughed. "You think she was content with talking?" She stepped closer to her sister, savoring each word. I saw you, Clara, in that motel on Route 42. He left your room at 3 a.m. Clara collapsed into a chair, silent tears streaming. Pablo buried his face in his hands. I could only think of Lucas. His laughter. His first steps. Were they mine? Or just the echo of another man's? The door opened. The doctor entered holding a coffee-stained envelope. "The results," he announced. Laura lunged for it, but I shoved her against the wall. "Give it to me," I demanded, ripping the envelope from her hands. The paper crackled as I opened it. My eyes scanned the lines frantically. Paternity index between subject A, Lucas, and subject B, protagonist, 99.99% compatible. Relief made me stagger. Lucas was mine. But then, a line further down, paternity index between subject C, Pablo, and subject D, Julian, 99.99% compatible. Marta screamed, a visceral animal sound that froze the blood. She lunged at Pablo, scratching his face. "My husband considered you his best friend," she howled as he tried to shield himself. "You were Julian's godfather." Clara watched, paralyzed. Laura, meanwhile, approached me with a twisted smile. "Congrats, Dad," she whispered. "Now ask yourself, why was Clara so terrified to take the test?" Before I could answer, Laura's phone vibrated. She glanced at it and went pale. An anonymous message. "Clara and Lucas's results have been tampered with. Check the attachment." The doctor, sweating, tried to leave the room. I pinned him against the door. "What did you do?" I snarled. "I was paid," he stammered, "to alter Clara's results." The attachment was another report. I opened it with shaking hands. The words tore through me like bullets. Maternity index between subject E, Clara, and subject A, Lucas. 0% compatible. Clara was not his mother. The report slipped from my hands like a lifeless body. The letters swam before my eyes, denying the only truth I'd ever known. Clara was not Lucas's mother. The laboratory air thickened, burdened by 1,000 lies. Marta was still beating. Pablo now in silence, as if her fists had lost their soul. Laura watched the chaos with the satisfaction of a predator, but her hands trembled as she read the message on her phone. "What the hell did you do, Clara?" I shouted. Flinging the papers at her face, she dodged them, but the words had already struck her. Her lips moved soundlessly, as if the weight of truth had stolen her voice. "I'm not his mother," she finally managed, glancing at Lucas sleeping in his stroller. "But you're not either." "Enough," Laura cut in, tossing her phone to the floor. The screen shattered, revealing a photo underneath. Clara and Pablo embracing in a parking lot. "You think this was a game?" she roared, grabbing Clara by the hair. "You used me." The doctor tried to flee again, but I cornered him against the cold wall. "Who paid you?" I spat, feeling the sweat of his fear. "She," he stuttered, pointing at Clara with a shaking finger. "She wanted you to believe Lucas was yours and to protect him." Protect him from what? My voice rumbled like thunder. At that moment, the lab door burst open. An older woman in black advanced with steps that froze the blood in my veins. Elena, the mother of Clara and Laura. Her tear-streaked face held a pistol. "From me," she said, aiming at Lucas. "Because that child should never have been born." The gun trembled in her hand, but her voice was steel. Clara could not conceive him. Elena confessed, looking at her daughter with contempt. Doctors said she'd never be a mother after the accident. She pointed to the scar on Clara's side, hidden for years. But she insisted, begged for a miracle. Begged? Clara laughed, a fractured sound. "You made me seek him. Him." "Whom?" I asked, though I already knew. Defeated, Elena lowered the gun. "Your brother," she whispered. "My... what?" The floor gave way beneath me. "Your twin brother," Elena continued. "The one your family put up for adoption. He is Lucas's biological father." Laura collapsed against the wall, laughing hysterically. "Ha! And Pablo?" she asked, pointing at her husband bleeding on the floor. "A decoy," Elena replied. Clara needed you to believe he was the father to protect the real one. Clara approached me, her eyes pleading for mercy. I swear I did it for you, she said, that Lucas would be your son. So we used your brother's sperm, without him knowing. The pieces fell into place. Clara's fertility clinic visits, her obsession with hiding the papers, her fear of me running tests. Lucas was mine by blood, but not by the law. Where is he? I bellowed. My brother? Elena pulled the trigger into the air. The deafening shot silenced the room. Dead, she said. I killed him when he learned the truth. Laura rose, drawing a cable from her purse. Her eyes shone with madness. This was all for you, she told Clara, advancing. Always the favorite, the perfect one. Do you know how long I planned this? The motel? The photos? Clara backed away. Fake, Laura admitted. But Pablo really desired you. That's why I used him. She nodded at Julian, crying in Marta's arms. He is your husband's son, not mine, Marta screamed. Pablo tried to rise, but Laura kicked him in the stomach. You, Laura pointed at Elena, forced me to marry a nobody to clean the family name. And you, she turned on me, gave Clara what I never had. Love. She seized Lucas from his stroller, pressing the cable against his neck. Now you will feel my pain, she whispered. Clara threw herself on Laura, wrestling to free Lucas. The two rolled on the floor, clawing and screaming. Elena raised the gun, but her hands shook too much. Stop, I screamed, but it was too late. A second shot thundered. Laura collapsed, a red stain spreading across her dress. Behind her, Marta held the smoking gun. No one hurts my son, she murmured, then crumpled. In the ensuing silence, only Lucas's sobs were heard. Clara took him in her arms, kissing his forehead as if for the first time. I'm sorry, she said, looking at me. I loved you, until the secret devoured me. Before I could reply, she dashed out. I followed. But in the parking lot, I only saw her car speeding into the night. 1 month later, the police found Clara's car at the edge of a cliff. No body, no note. Only Lucas's baptism veil, stained with salt and tears. Laura survived but lost her voice. Pablo hanged himself in his cell. Marta moved far away with Julian. I stayed with Lucas. My son. Our secret. Sometimes when I watch him sleep, I swear his eyes hold the same poisoned green as Laura's. And I wonder, how many more truths will I bury before he uncovers them? 5 years have passed since that night at the cliff. 5 years of waking in sweat, imagining Clara's cries drowning in the sea instead of Lucas's. My son grew with my eyes, but every time he laughs, with that high-pitched laugh that cuts the air, I see him. My brother. The ghost I never met yet, whose genes dance in every cell of Lucas. Today, as I dress him for his first day of school, I notice something new. A dimple on his left cheek. Just like in Laura's photo. I ask if he's always had it, but he only smiles, innocent, and hugs me with arms no longer those of a baby. When is Mommy coming back? He asks suddenly, adjusting his dinosaur backpack. The lie catches in my throat. She's in heaven. I've told him 100 times, but today his green eyes, so unlike mine, demand more. Soon, I lie, brushing an imaginary speck of dust from his shirt. When she's ready? In the entryway mirror, I see a figure outside the window, a silhouette wearing a black hat. Elena. But it can't be. Elena is buried beside Laura, dead 3 years ago in a prison accident. Come on, Dad. Lucas tugs at my hand, breaking the spell. Outside, the cold October air hits me. On the sidewalk, a woman in a gray coat walks swiftly, disappearing around the corner. She wears red shoes like Clara's. At night, while Lucas sleeps, I sift through the old boxes in the attic. Among blurry photos and broken toys, I find a letter buried beneath the stained baptismal veil. The envelope has no return address, but I recognize Clara's handwriting, instantly. My dearest, if you're reading this, it's because you finally understood that lies are seeds that grow in the dark. Lucas is not yours, nor is he mine. We took him from a clinic in Switzerland where my mother paid for a perfect baby. Your brother was only a decoy. Forgive me. Or don't. But please, take care of him before she finds him. Signed, with a bloody C dried years ago. The attic walls loom over me. A purchased baby? I scramble through the hospital documents, all fabricated. Even Lucas's right thumbprint, a spiral, matches that of a missing child in Zurich in 2018. Something taps the window. A stone wrapped in paper. Outside, the woman in the gray coat watches me from the street. Her red shoes gleam under the eye. Moonlight, he's not yours. Return him or she will come for him. See. I bolt for the front door, but all I see is a figure running away. I chase her into the park where the mist hides everything but her laughter. Clara's laughter. Where are you? I shout, but only the echo answers. On the swing where Lucas plays every day, there's a rag doll I recognize. It was Laura's. Inside its dress, a recorder plays a message in German. The child belongs to Project Lumen. Deliver him or face the consequences. When I return home, the house is empty. Lucas isn't in his bed. In the kitchen, a familiar voice emerges from the darkness. You did well raising him, Elena says, striking a match. Her face is scarred, but her eyes are unchanged, cold, calculating. But now it's time he returns to those who designed him. Are you alive? I stammer, searching for something to defend myself with. Death is a disguise, she replies, pointing to the back door. Two figures in black suits stand waiting. Lucas is the key to something greater. Enhanced DNA. Supernatural intelligence. And you were merely his incubator. Before I can react, one of the men pins me to the floor. Elena hoists sleeping Lucas onto her shoulder. Mommy, he murmurs drowsily. Yes, darling, Elena answers. Grandma is here. They left me alive, perhaps to suffer, perhaps to remember. But on the floor among the rubble of our lives, I found Lucas's necklace. Inside the locket is a USB chip with coordinates 64°9N, 21 and 56W. Iceland. Now, with a knife in one hand and Lucas's photo in the other, I write this in a blood-stained notebook. If anyone reads this, know that I will find him. I will kill anyone who stands in my way, because even if he's not my blood, he is my son, and no secret from hell will ever change that.